Hello and welcome to this review of my Monterey K103. This was a donation from a viewer, thanks again May, and it's pretty interesting because although Monterey K100 series keyboards are fairly common, this K103 is rare to the point of being almost undocumented, and the switches aren't very common either. I've reviewed a Monterey K110 before, but the K103 more closely follows Monterey's older style of keyboards, albeit with a slightly different case from the more well-known K101, K102 and K104. It's almost a missing link in that series with regards to how rare it is. The style of the case is reminiscent of the large beveled swooping Dell 8101, and it's similarly well built with a thick plastic case and a metal mounting plate, although it's slightly longer and even heavier at 1.7 kilos. It uses locking flip-out feet as well as a thick, heavy coiled cable with a 5-pin DIN plug and an 80 XT switch at the back. Overall, very nice build quality. Here is the label of this keyboard, and while there's no manufacture date on it, most components in the keyboard have timestamps that suggest it was built in 1989, except for the top part of the case, which says 1995. That sounds like a bit of a mistake though, especially as the bottom case says 1989 as well, so I think it's actually the earlier of the two dates that's true. Maybe the top case is a replacement or something, because to me it makes very little sense that they would build the whole keyboard except for the top case, shelve it for 6 years, finally stick on a top case and then suddenly sell it. The switches are of an unknown designation and you'd be forgiven for thinking they're clicky white Alps switches. But they're not, they're actually manufactured by Omron. Omron produce a wide range of electronics and they're most well known for their mouse switches, which are most likely present in your mouse as well, but they also try their hand at keyboard switches. The most well-known ones are B3GS switches, of which the amber version is by far the most common. These are extremely clicky switches, with a pretty hefty tactility. They're basically Alps on steroids. Now, while the B3GS switches are obviously Alps inspired, with a similar click leaf and contact leaf as well as being Alps mount, they're not actually Alps clones, as they use a different plate mount and a completely different, incompatible 3-pin pinout. The Omrons in the Monterey also have a click leaf, and although it does look slightly different, these definitely are Alps clones. In fact, one of them, the enter key, was non-functional when I got it, so I transplanted the pause key switch and then replaced that with a bog standard white Alps switch, and it works and fits perfectly. And as a bonus, I get another switch for my switch collection, and I'm now able to show you the insides. So on the vivisection bench we find the click leaf of a wide steel type like Alps and B3GS switches, but it's not quite the same, as the toothy part actually resembles that of the copper mantis foot leaves that many of the crappier Alps clones tended to come with. Furthermore, there's also an actual switch plate, which is highly unusual for Alps clones, and while it's a different design than either Alps or even B3GS switch plates, they all appear to use similar if not completely identical contact leaves. In terms of what they're like to use, they feel closer to actual white Alps than they do to amber Omrons, except that the tactile bump isn't all the way at the top like on Alps, it's a bit further down. It's maybe a bit between amber Omrons, which are very tactile, and the extremely rare cyan Omrons, which are virtually linear. It's not a bad key feel actually. Also, compared to amber Omrons, they appear to be a little bit more robust, as amber Omrons are so unreliable that every time I fire up that keyboard, another couple of switches turn out to have bitten the dust. It's ridiculous. For example, this time another 4 have died since I last repaired it apparently. The sound is somewhat similar to amber Omrons, though not quite as clicky, but they are a bit bassier. It's not a bad sound really. The keycaps are pretty cool as well. They're double shot ABS, and although some of the legends aren't the absolute best I've seen in double shot, they're still extremely durable. Look at the fat arrow keys in particular, those are awesome. They're kind of a giveaway actually, as only a few manufacturers use those, mostly Monterey, Deck and Datacomp. They have a really vintage feel to them, I like it. The caps are a lower profile than most Alps caps, which were largely OEM profile, but these ones are a bit closer to cherry profile, and they appear to be done by the same company that also did the caps on the Zenith ZKB2, although the profile's not the same on all rows and the font is slightly narrower than the normal Helvetica used on most Alps keyboards. I suspect they were made by Tai Hao based on the injection marks, but I'm not sure. Finally, a note on the layout. It uses a layout that I refer to as the Monterey layout for their common usage of it. It's a variation of the Focus layout, which also uses a big-ass enter, which is of course maximum awesome balls as we all know, but without the huge disadvantage of a small backspace key that big-ass enters normally come with. Instead, the extra key is placed next to the Shift, which is split to make room for this. The Monterey layout doesn't put the extra key inside the Shift, instead it puts it in the space between the Control and Alt buttons, which is normally unused on 101 key keyboards. To keep it more symmetrical, they added a blank key between the other Alt and Control keys as well. The Monterey layout can also be found on some non-Monterey keyboards, including several Northgates and even Focus models, but it's pretty typical for Monterey keyboards, or at least the mechanical ones, and I found it to be really nice to use actually. Overall, this is a nice keyboard, I really like it. It's very well built, I like the switches, they're certainly among the best Alps clones I've tried so far. The layout is great in my opinion, and it's kind of a looker as well, it has a lot of charm I think. Although these appear to be super rare, I can definitely recommend it if you happen to run into one. That's it for this review, thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and following is a typing demonstration of me typing on this keyboard.